Alright, hey guys, welcome back. It's me, T-Bone, back again. And today I will be doing a tutorial on how to rebuild a character and what to use to rebuild, and if you're trying to max another character with a different character. I'm actually not going to be using my account for this tutorial just because I do not have any open character slots, so I'm using my friend's account. So yeah, let's just jump right in. So when remaxing a character, I would definitely, depending on what your favorite character is, I probably wouldn't choose your favorite character, because my favorite character is Knight, and I find it most fun when maxed and full UT'd and topped. So I'll explain. This is probably gonna be a 2 or 3 part, like I wouldn't call it a series, but just a 2-3 part video, just so it's spaced out. First I'm gonna talk about characters, then order of pots, and then I'll just get into it later. But first this is gonna be about characters. This is gonna be how you will choose the character you want to use to remax yourself or that character, or remax a different character. Say you want to play a knight, but you remax it with a wizard or something. So I'm going to get into the positives and negatives of every character here. And my top 4 characters to rebuild would have to be Archer, Wizard, Necromancer, and Huntress. Wizard is the first character you get, and I think this is just because its stats are quite balanced. Its special is quite easy to use, just going around hitting space, space, space. The staff is decent, does a decent amount of damage with the dex. Speed is average for most classes, def is average as well, and its equips aren't too expensive or too rare. Now, it's a good class. Most people do NPEs on this just because it's the first class, like I said, and it's not too hard to learn. I don't love staff classes just because I find them to be way too easy. So yeah, moving on. Archer. Archer is probably the second most prevalent class. I wouldn't say class, but NPE or like rebuilding character. This is because it is piercing, long range, 3-shot, 2-shot, 1-shot. It has slow, paralyze, and daze. It has sorry, I'm kind of blanking out. It basically has what are they called? I'm just gonna say the armor is quite good. It's quite evenly maxed. They have different variety. They have one solely for attack, for speed, just for def, and it's pretty good. It's not too hard to use either. It's special. The first one, like I said, is slow. Then it moves into paralyze, and then it has the QOT for dazing, which is very nice. It's a very good class to use to get pots, just because it does quite a lot of damage, with its max attack being 75 and all other stats basically being averaged out to being 50 and 25 and stuff like that. So now moving on to Necro and Huntress. Now these classes, I would say, are very, very similar to Wizard and Archer, but have a different special. Now these specials are unique, or are completely different to Wizard and Archer. Or I wouldn't say that, because Huntress and Archer are very similar in their specials and stats. They're used in very different situations though, because a Huntress starts out with a slow and has a unique of paralyze. So Huntress, it has a trap, so it's like it's a small radius of where its special can be used, and it's spread out, which is great for Godlands farming, just because it explodes, and then you have that huge group of paralyzed or slowed. So you can use a 3-shot, which most people have, like a Fae, Verdant, or G-Bow, and just spray in there. And if you have like a C-Bow, D-Bow, that's even better. Archer just has a very small, just like just the quiver. It's very small, like one arrow just goes out and pierces and goes through. Huntress is very good for Godlands farming. Now Necromancer, people are like, well, why is Necromancer here? It's like a priest because it heals. Now its special is used by hovering the cursor over monsters and hitting space. It then heals allies around you and yourself. Now this is quite good. It does increase lag, which I don't care all too much about, because you can just spam heal. People might say that it's not used as much, or it's just not as useful because of pets. I still love the character just because in Godlands it's very useful to hit space and heal everyone, because that's SB for you, and that's gives you a lot of pots. So Necromancers and Huntresses are very good for pot farming. Same with Wizards, because the space can spam out and hit lots of monsters. Archer is good as well, just because of the piercing it goes through, the range, and 3-shot. Getting into other characters now, let's go from left to right and down. So Rogue. Rogue is high risk, high reward, as I'd like to say, just because it's cloaked, but other people can go behind you and kill you. The thing is, you have very high, in one max, you have very high speed, and very high dex. So you go in, do your damage, get the hell out of there. Because if you don't, you'll probably die. Now, I don't love this for rebuilding just because um, when there's other people around you, it's very difficult to do what you want to do. Now, rogues, I hope they add some unique cloak to a rogue so it can actually be used with other players. And I kind of hate how, and this does discourage rushing, when you get quieted, you get uncloaked, which is kind of difficult, kind of fun, but in a way kind of discourages rushing with rogues, which it's kind of what a rogue is. Yeah, I wouldn't. The only reason I wouldn't remax with this is just because you put a lot into the character and then just randomly die. I've died 88 on many rogues, stupid reasons, but they're still. I mean, you still die. So yeah, high risk, high reward. I would stay away from rogue to rebuild. I could use some other character to max rogue for fun. Rogues are kind of one of those classes where you play every once in a while when you get bored. Yeah. So moving on, priest. Priest I don't love because it has the same special basically as a necro. You can heal whenever you want though. You don't have to be around monsters. The only problem is that its staff does not do too much damage, and it's using a robe, so you don't have too much defense. Now with pets healing MP and HP, you could use a defense ring and have more defense. So they're decent classes, but if you want to get a lot of drops very quickly, I would definitely not use a priest. Priest is basically a character that can never die unless lag, or you literally just do the most stupid thing like, I don't know, run straight through Godlands without like a tome or something. It's something I would do. It's fun, but priests rarely die unless you do something stupid, and I've done many stupid things. Moving on. So warrior. Warrior is one of my favorite classes, and I can't see why people don't play it even without jug. I mean, people do, but I most see people like, oh, I don't want to play my warrior because I don't have a jug. Like, jug is useful, but like any other UT, it's like a uniqueness to the character that's not really supposed to be there. It's just a special buff, so it's easier to play the character. I find just using a gold helm or great general is just as useful because the speed lets you move around the map a lot faster and you can dodge a lot easier. I don't like being that tanky and just running straight in and taking all the shots. That's kind of what a knight's for because it doesn't have any speed. With a warrior, rushing is like so easy. The only reason I don't like remaxing with it is because it doesn't have that much def. It is literally just, it has the same amount of def as a wizard, besides for its armor, which is heavy armor, but other than that, it's not a great class to rebuild with because people that are not experienced at it always like to use jug, and you won't use a jug on an unmaxed level 20. Now, you can do it, it is difficult, it is fun, and it's great for an NP experience with friends. However, if you're just a single person playing around with guildies or just soloing stuff or just going around and going with random people, I would definitely not do a warrior. The reason, again, is just because the speed isn't too helpful when unmaxed because then you'll just get lots of damage and dead. Now with pets it's pretty easy, but still, I would stay away from warrior and other melee classes for now just because if you have no characters then you're probably screwed. Now Knight is a bit different because its max def is 40, so it's pretty tanky, but until maxed it's not that great. It is very slow. You max its attack in maybe 5-0 attack pots or whatever, like 5 to 0. I've actually had a max attack right off the roll, but other than that, Knight is a pretty good class. Its stun is very, I guess, overpowered. I mean, you're basically making something not shoot for whatever the amount of time is, like 1.5 seconds. It's very good. Or no, that's the 1 point. That's the Oreo. Whatever the seconds are. It's very good, but if you don't have much experience with melee, I would definitely not do a melee. Obviously, Knight's pretty good for rebuilding. That's how I rebuilt my account. But I mean, I love melee. I have lots of experience with it. So if you're looking for a fun time to remax, I would do Knight. Paladin I would stay away from just because, like Warrior, it does not have much def. Its max 75 stat is Wiz, which is helpful because of its buff. However, without an Oreo, it is kind of rendered useless, in my opinion. People can still play with it using a G-Cookie or something like that, but I would just say it's not a great class to rebuild just because the buff, you can basically infinitely buff now with pets. However, I would just stay away from Paladin. It's just my honest opinion. It's not that great to rebuild just because the buff, it does heal you over time, but I would just use a Priest or Necromancer if you're scared of dying because you can just instantly basically get that health. Now assassins, people are like, oh, this is a great rebuilding class. Why didn't you choose this? This is great for going in 0-8, spamming your poison on O2 and getting top, selling them for life, life to death, and maxing. If you want to do that, that's fine, but I like just doing dungeons and maxing that way. Now, assassins are great for that. Other than that, they're events, but without being maxed, it's not useful. Trying to get your drop, you could die. So moving on to Mystic, you can say, oh, this is a staff class, why didn't you choose this? The reason behind this is because its ability is kind of useless because it cannot stasis bosses. Now, this is a great thing, or else we'd be trolled and people would be yelling at Mystics. But besides for Drake eggs, but those are just fun as hell. But Mystics aren't that useful to rebuild just because I don't even find the class that useful until you get the Orb of Conflict because of the speed boost. Now, that's just my honest opinion. I don't play too much of Mystic or too much of Paladin or stuff like that, but Mystic, I would just stay away from it because it does the same damage as a wizard with the staff, except its special doesn't really do much, doesn't give you any buffs until you get to the Orb of Conflict. Now, a Trickster isn't the best class to rebuild with. The reason is because, like a Rogue, it's almost like a high risk, high reward sometimes. Like, Trickster isn't really a class I would consider playing to rebuild, just because it's more of like a fun class, almost like a Mystic, just because its special is more used for rushing, which I would like to be maxed to, unless you can rush on max Rogue, which is very fun. But Trickster, I would definitely I would urgently tell you not to try to remax with this, just because it's special. Not too many people know how to play it. It's quite difficult. Just stay away from Trickster until you get a couple max characters. Try it out. They're very fun. I'm getting into it. Unbelievable fun. Getting into Sorcerer. Sorcerer, it is pretty good. It's like Wizard, how it does a lot of damage. But Sorcerer, it's special. If you don't know what it does, if you hit space, it basically spams out and hits, I don't know, like 8, 7, 6 enemies. The only reason this isn't, I mean, it's decently good. It's basically like a wizard. It has instead of a staff, it just has a wand. It's like a priest in that way. But the scepter does a decent amount of damage. When you get up there, when you get a full me, it's great for rushing because it slows. If you like Sorcerer, do that. The max vit's 75, so you can probably get a roll of like 50, so it's pretty good there. I wouldn't use this just because it's like an odd class. Like it has a good special, but it has like, I think it's one of the weakest weapons. Just because it's the wand. I wouldn't stay away from it. It's a unique class. I like it. If you want to try something different, do a Sorcerer. Moving on to the last but not least, or I used to think it's least, but Ninja. Ninja, it has very different stats to all the other characters. What I mean by this is most stats are maxed at 50, 75, or 25. In Knight's case, 40, and in some other things, 60. Most of its stats are very different, which is nice because it's a completely out of this world balance of all these stats. Now, I kind of like it because its katana pierces, it's short range, but when you hit space and use this the star, you can run in, do some damage, run out, let go of space, the star goes, hits something, and you get something. They're quite good, but the when just trying to get drops with it unmaxed, it's quite difficult because, I mean, you can stay speedy, but then your mana runs out unless you have a great pet. And the star does a lot of damage, so if you just hit it to, if you just use the star for SB, you might as well just use a wizard because you're basically spellbombing, but with a star. So yeah, that basically wraps up this first series. I'm going to release them all at the same time probably, so I'm going to record the next one now. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, leave a like or subscribe or whatever. If you have any questions, comments, just post them in the comments. I'll try to get back to you whenever I can. It's kind of weird with the new Google Plus. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that. I could care less. Either way, I'll see you guys next time. And yeah.